I feel like Trump is pump faking World War III right now to receive appeasement and placation from really anyone he wants. So Trump sends JD Vance and Hegseth to Europe to announce that they're pulling all of their funding for NATO. The EU starts freaking out. Everyone is outraged. Elon Musk, as a representative of the White House, video calls into an AfD rally, which is basically a Yahtzee rally in Germany. Trump surprises Netanyahu in public with the announcement that he intends for Gaza to be a collaborative real estate development project with the state of Israel that will see the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people from the Gaza Strip. Elon Musk whispers in Trump's ear and tells him to levy sanctions against South Africa and then also to offer some type of special refugee program potentially to white Afrikaners who are having their land stolen. The White House takes control of the press pool, that little group of reporters that gets to follow the president everywhere and ask questions on behalf of all media outlets and the American people. Then invite a Russian state-sanctioned journalist to be part of that press pool. Not saying that's necessarily bad, but they do. And before all of this, Trump says that he wants Greenland, which by proxy is tied up in the EU because they have some type of weird semi-colonial relationship with Denmark. But back to the president, JD Vance and Trump double team Zelensky in public in front of the entire press pool in what is the most physically tense interaction between world leaders that I have ever seen in my entire life. What can only be described as this fight. World War III is mentioned several times. The most notable points of escalation is when Zelensky, not in so many words, says, "You feel comfy now with your big ocean between you and everything going on, but it's going to come for you too." Wants to put Zelensky in a 360 deal like it's Def Jam in 2002. He says, "Sign it or you're not getting any more funds and you're going to lose this war." Again, Zelensky says, and apparently I quote, "Fuck you." Shortly thereafter, several EU leaders come out and reaffirm their support of Ukraine. Oh, and North Korea is there for some reason. Yeah, unlikely group, but Israel, the US, far-right factions in a number of countries that they're trying to flip over like Othello chips in a game. In the African continent, the source of Europe's wealth is kicking out the leechiest of the leeches as we speak in favor of deals with countries like Russia and China. I think the reason that you've seen Trump and JD Vance and all their people trying to bully European leaders is directly tied to what I said in the caption of the previous video. I really think that there's a potential future where the European map is changed over the course of the next decade or so. I don't think Trump sees the EU as an equally footed player on the world stage right now. At least that's how he's acting. I feel like he and Putin, although probably not explicitly through conversation, are at least entertaining the idea of Europe getting carved up the way that the African continent did. I know that sounds so dramatic and unbelievable, but why? Why though? I mean, again, the whole Greenland thing. He was looking at Greenland like, "Ooh, that's nice. I'll take that." And Denmark was like, "No, you won't." Greenland was like, "No, you won't." And he's like, yeah, I will. Again, I feel like this is tied to Elon showing up at that AfD rally. Of course, they're encouraging the growth of far-right movements in European countries, but it's not like, "Oh, you're about to be my partner." It's more in the, "We're funding this extremist group in X, Y, and Z global South country." I just reposted a video by this creator, Samayo, where they were basically saying like Europe is experiencing the perils of dependency that basically every country that they've ever colonized has experienced. And I totally agree. Again, I feel like the European map is going to look different in 20 years than it does now, potentially. I feel like Trump sees the world as like the US and the BRICS states, and they're going to try to find an amicable agreement. And in the process, the US, again, going back to this Gilded Age mentality, this US imperialism mentality, is going to take up a bunch of new colonies. That's why he's saying, "I want Canada." That's why he's saying, "I want Greenland. I want the Panama Canal." In his mind, he's carving a deal with Putin, and it's like, let's split the world 50-50. I'm not even saying that's what Putin wants. I'm not going to pretend to understand the intricacies of Russian politics. Some people argue that Putin and Russia generally just want a stronger sense of security and that NATO is encroaching on that. I'm not saying that's my stance. I'm not saying it's not my stance. I'm saying I don't know. But my point is, like, in Trump's mind, he's like, all right, Europe's not really a player. We're going to carve up the world. And he's making his wish list. That's what all of these insane statements are in my mind. All of these super imperialist statements. All of these promises of returning to the Gilded Age. And on some weird level, I feel like it's because he's completely aware that climate change is a thing. And he's trying to hoard resources in preparation for what will be a resource scarce future. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of bridges being built between these far-right groups in Europe and the US, even more than there already are. And I think these far-right groups are low-key unaware that they're about to be turned into lapdogs. Maybe happily so. Maybe happily so. I don't know. You know, one only need to look to history to know that there are certainly instances where, like, you know, an opposition group within a country is funded by some foreign power and they are more than happy to be the kings of their sandbox. You know, that's a very harsh metaphor. I'm sure I have some foreign friends watching this thinking this is the most American-centric, small-scoped perspective I have ever heard. I understand. I don't know everything that's going on in geopolitics, but I am familiar with the archetype of a white racist boomer man. I am familiar with the archetype of a seed money slush fund leeching tech bro. I am familiar with these archetypes, and it's not unreasonable to think that this is how they're thinking right now.